Hey, everybody, welcome back to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. Week 1 is in the books. The 49ers just wrapping up their game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Blowout victory in Pittsburgh today for the 49ers by a score of 30-7. We're going to get into all of that right now on the 49ers Steelers Instant Reaction and Takeaway Show. I am your host, Jack Hammer, and let's get into it. This was a solid game, as Lucas, one of our members of the Toolbox over in the comment section, says, "Hi, Jack, pretty solid game." Absolutely. Extremely solid game. You go through it, you start to look at this team. All of the discussion, the talk, the negativity, all the questions were really answered in this game. If you go back and you look through the way that this team played today, it was a solid performance. I understand some of the questions regarding the defensive line, regarding various pieces of this team, the offensive line, that ability to stop the run game, those types of things. But the one thing that we hadn't seen really up until now, up until this season, we hadn't seen everybody play together. You hadn't seen everybody to play together as a fan base in particular. And in practice, it's, the offense and defense are going against each other. So the 49ers offense, you saw how good they looked today. Now they went up against that 49ers defense and you saw how dominant they were. These two units playing against each other on a daily basis. And you watch them play and you're like, I don't know how good these guys are. And then you see them go out and play against another NFL team, a team in the Pittsburgh Steelers who had a lot of positive press based off of their performance in this preseason. Kenny Pickett, everybody talking about the 5 touchdowns on 5 drives and all that kind of stuff. And the San Francisco 49ers, from the very opening of this game, they just absolutely took it to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You go back and one of the main topics that I talked about earlier today was, before the game, was that ability of the 49ers offensive line to hold up in pass protection, as well as open up holes in the running game. We saw that. One of my other questions was, can the defensive line step up in the run game? We saw them do that. The pass rush, Nick Bosa, that's what I think the biggest thing is, the pass rush of Nick Bosa. Holy smokes, that guy just gets off the ball. He makes everybody else better because he is so good. It was just an all-around butt whooping, especially by NFL proportions, 30-7 in the first half. At one point, right before the end of the first half, the Steelers had 1 yard of total offense. That was, again, that 49ers defense just killing it. And yeah, we got to call this out, because this has been, Kyle Shanahan said this. Kyle Shanahan called Brock Purdy the real deal this year during training camp. And of course, the group that has been negative about Brock Purdy from the very get-go jumped all over that and has been mocking Brock Purdy with the whole real deal moniker throughout this offseason, throughout training camp, really. And I'm just going to say, you guys need to pay attention, because if you think that he is a problem or he's not the real deal, tell me you don't know what you're watching without actually telling me that you don't know what you're watching. And I'm going to bring this comment up from JW. Real deal Purdy Field, it was a real good game for Brock Purdy. Wasn't perfect. Nothing about the 49ers performance today was perfect. But man, and before the game, we talked about this on this channel. We talked about how, for this game, with this pass rush of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you are going to need to have Brock Purdy get the ball out of his hands quickly. Get the ball out. That's going to help the offensive line. That's going to keep him clean. And they did that right in the beginning. They just did it all over the field, moved the ball really well. And throughout, you look at it. That's what I wrote down. Here's just some of my notes on Brock Purdy. I wrote this down late in the third quarter. Game was kind of over. And so I just wanted to write some notes down to what I was seeing. And with Brock Purdy, it was just, his decision-making early on, those quick decisions, getting the ball in and out of just getting the ball, getting it out, getting it to his playmakers right away, allowing them to make plays, just really good stuff there. You saw him as the game progressed. It seemed like some of that decision-making slowed down. I think some of that might have been because the play calls changed a little bit, and so you're having a little bit of deeper drops. I'll have to see that. We'll get a better idea of that when we look at the film breakdown. We come on and do that, we'll get a better idea there. But there was definitely a very decisive Brock Purdy in the beginning of this game. That's the guy you want to see. People talked about it, the dink and dunk, the noodle arm, whatever you want to say. But I'll just say this. Brock Purdy can move this 49ers offense. He can make every throw that Kyle Shanahan wants you to make in this offense. And if you didn't believe that, if you didn't believe me, There's been a lot of talk about this guy when it comes to Brock Purdy and his inability, quote, inability, to throw to the right. The throw that he made to Brandon Ayuk for the second touchdown today, the back shoulder route down the right sideline, money, right on the money. Nice throw. Good ball from him. Nice catch by Brandon Ayuk. And Randall, you were on the money. You did. You said, remember my prediction, 27-6. I got laughed at all week. Who's laughing now? Hey, I don't know if I remember you seeing that from you. I don't know. There was somebody on the channel today that had 35-3. I kind of laughed about that. And both of you guys were really close. I was not expecting that. I thought the game was going to be a lot closer. I gave Pittsburgh a lot more credit based on the way that they finished last season, based on some of the players that they have on that team. That pass rush I thought was going to be more of a factor. And it really wasn't. The 49ers just came out and they just took it to them. This looked like the game that I watched yesterday, which was a high school football game in which it was two freshman football teams, and you could just tell that one team was better than the other from the very beginning. Even though the other team that one team that was losing constantly was in position to make plays, they just couldn't make the plays, and you're just like, you're just so close. But they couldn't make the plays because the other team was just so much better. Well, that's what today's game was. The 49ers were just better, especially in the first half. It was like I just sat there and in my head, and I said this out loud to my girlfriend who was watching the game with me. I said, this is just amazing. Every time a Steeler turns around, there is a 49ers defender in their face. There were pressure up front by that 49ers defensive line. Once the ball came out of the hands of Kenny Pickett, there was a 49er there to make a tackle. I mean, it was just a really good game all around. And, we had questions about the running game. They shut it down. They dominated at the line of scrimmage, whether it was the defensive linemen holding their gaps, whether it was the 49ers lining up with a 5-man front on one play and Fred Warner reading it and getting upfield quickly, getting to the ball carrier for a loss, putting pressure on the quarterback, Kenny Pickett. I mean, it was a masterclass on the defensive side today. Just really good. Like Lucas Pesci says here, Armstead played amazing. I think so too. That again, that's where, you look at the stats from this game and you look at the way that this game went down, and I don't think we're going to see much in terms of the stat sheet for Eric Armstead. He had one quarterback hit in this game, no tackles, nothing else across the board, but he had a really nice game. He was stout all day long, held his point in the running game, and just it was a really solid performance out there by Eric Armstead today. The only thing that I will say about the 49ers defense is you can really tell the difference. One of the things that you could tell is the one possession at the end of the first half that Pittsburgh moved the ball down the field. Yeah, you had the bad penalty on Diameter Lenore that helped extend that and give them an extra 15 yards. But beyond that, that was a series where the 49ers coaching staff took that starting defensive line, all of the starters off the field for a couple plays. And without those starters on the field, you could see the difference. All of a sudden, there was a little bit of room for Kenny Pickett to throw the ball, and you saw him move the offense down the field. Then the starting defensive linemen come back on the field once the ball's down inside the 30-yard line, and all of a sudden it got a lot tougher for them. They still scored a touchdown, but it got real tough for them, and I would have liked to have seen I don't think they score a touchdown today if the 49ers had just kept their guys on the field, if they hadn't tried to rotate the way they did, kind of take the majority of their big guys off the field for a rest right there. I mean, think about it this way: the Steelers had the ball their first 5 possessions. They ran 15 plays, 1 yard, 3 and out, 5 times. Their first 8 possessions of the day, the Steelers went 3 and out 6 times. I mean, they just got their asses handed to them. Let's just be real. Let's be honest with what it was. It was an ass kicking by the 49ers today. And that's a good thing, especially for a 49ers team that is coming off of a really strong season last year, has big plans going into this 2023 season. They're now 1-0 going into Los Angeles next week, where the Rams we know they don't have Cooper Kupp. So just big news, and then just a couple of things. I got to toot my own horn here. All off season, other than the Purdy negativity, what have we been hearing all off season? The 49ers need to add what to their defense? There goes the 49ers Express through town right there. all offseason, we've been hearing that the 49ers need to add a pass rusher. They don't have a pass rusher opposite of Nick Bosa. They got to spend big money. They need to make a major trade. They got to go out and get Danielle Hunter. They got to go get this guy. They got to go get that guy. Throw a pass rusher name out there. The 49ers need to go get him, whatever. And I said to you back a long time ago on this channel, I said that the 49ers believe in Drake Jackson and that Drake Jackson's going to be a much better player for them in terms of sacks this season. And what I said all off season was Drake Jackson's not going to get sacks on his own. But what's going to happen is you're going to have the pressure from Bosa, the pressure from inside with Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave. And that pressure is going to force quarterbacks to move. And when those quarterbacks move, that is when Drake Jackson's going to get the sacks. What happened? Drake Jackson, 3 sacks today, 2 of them on exactly what I was talking about, where it was pressure from other places. He chases them down. And Glass City says, Jack, you did say that Drake Jackson was a concern, though. Absolutely. Especially the concern with Drake Jackson was mostly because they didn't have Nick Bosa. And without Nick Bosa, you don't have that ability to have so much pressure to where the quarterback's having to run around, where Jackson can then make the plays, right? The other guy that we didn't talk enough about is defensive end Clelin Ferrell. And I just want to share a quick story when it comes to Clelin Ferrell real quick. Clelin Ferrell, excuse me. We're out in Las Vegas for the joint practices with the Raiders. There's a guy who covers the Raiders, used to cover the 49ers. You know him, Ryan Sakamoto, the Beast Rider. Covers the Raiders out there. And when we were in Las Vegas, one of the first things that he said to me as we're talking about the 49ers was, pay attention to Clelin Ferrell. Clelin Ferrell is going to be really good for you guys this year. Clelin Ferrell is a guy who makes plays, gets after it, and he is going to be a very good player for the San Francisco 49ers. And I said, okay. And I said, he's looked really good so far. I told him, I've been impressed with him, but, I don't know how much what he's going to do. Clelin Ferrell started today. I thought that Drake Jackson was going to be the starter opposite of Nick Bosa. I was wrong. Instead, it was Clelin Ferrell. Clelin Ferrell played a tremendous game today. You look at the end of the day, he doesn't have any sacks for Clelin Ferrell, but Ferrell did end up with one quarterback hit on the day. His pressure of Kenny Pickett should have been an interception for Fred Warner, but Warner dropped the ball. He played a really nice game for the San Francisco 49ers today. Really good stuff there by Clelin Ferrell out there today. Just a really, really solid overall performance. And so I want to make sure that we shout him out because he looked really good out there today as well. So let's go through it. Let's take a second. Let's go through the keys that I talked about earlier today. Let's see how the 49ers did against those keys. And if you guys have questions, hit me up. If you guys have, super chats are definitely going to get answered because they're going to show up on the channel. If there are other comments, I might miss them just because I'm looking through my notes that I have on the screen at the same time. So if you have something that you really want me to ask, there's a couple of ways you can do it. One, you can be a member of the toolbox. Those usually pop up, or send me over a super chat. We'll definitely make sure we get those. Let's see. We got this one right here from NorCal Dan. The only critique is let's rest CMC a little bit more. By the way, I played baseball at Sierra College in Rockland, where Ayuk played. He's on a mission. Yeah, Sierra College. That's where the 49ers used to 49ers training camp spot there in Rockland. I was up in that area a couple days ago. I agree with you to an extent here. There was a point in this game late where they didn't have to keep McCaffrey in the game. They kept him out there, let him keep running the ball. But I would have liked to have seen some of those carries go to Elijah Mitchell instead. The 49ers ran the ball today 34 times. Of those 34, 4 of those were from the quarter. 5 of them are from the quarterbacks with scrambles and kneel downs and stuff like that. So about 29 carries really for the 49ers running backs today. 152 yards for Christian McCaffrey. The big one, the 65-yarder on the second play of the second half. But a huge day for the running back. 22 carries, 152 yards there. Another 3 catches for 17. Solid performance all around. Big numbers for Christian McCaffrey to start off this season on the ground. That kind of also shows why I didn't believe he's going to be a 1,000 guy. He's only had 17 yards today, and it's going to be really hard for him to get enough touches. So I don't expect to see him really put up those kind of numbers on a consistent basis in the air to get to that 1,000 yards receiving. But a huge day for him today, that being Christian McCaffrey. Now, let's just go through it. Number one, my number one key to this game today was the 49ers' ability to Brock Purdy to get the ball out quickly. My question was, can Brock Purdy handle the pressure? That was my question. You go through, could Brock Purdy handle the pressure? Absolutely. Purdy today was on the mark, 19 of 29, 220 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, passer rating of 111.3. You look at it overall, Purdy, he actually had less completions and less throwing yards than Kenny Pickett, but that's also because Pickett had 46 attempts today and playing from behind and all those types of things. He also had a couple of interceptions over on that side. So, Brock Purdy, though, just managed the game, did a good job, got the ball out quick. The 49ers were up 20-0 late in the first half, excuse me. Just an overall solid performance. Like I said, I felt like with Brock Purdy today, it was all about getting the ball out quick, right? Get the ball out quick, get it to your playmakers, and it started off that way. He was really solid in the beginning. It felt like it fell off a little bit as the game went along. I'm not sure how much of that was on him. We'll have to see the film breakdown there. There was one series where something happened, and you saw when they went to the sidelines, they showed Kyle Shanahan talking to Purdy. I wonder if part of that conversation was, "Hey man, you just got to get the ball out of your hands. You can't keep sitting back there." So we'll see how it goes. I think that it was a solid day for Brock Purdy. I'd give him a solid B+ today for his performance. Some really, really good play, especially in the first half when they needed it. Things fell off a little bit as the game went along, but it was. You look at it, some of those incompletions, throwaways, balls getting hit at the line of scrimmage, and those types of things. I think when we go back and look at his targeted throws are going to look really nice in terms of his performance today. I got to shout this out from Sarah the Domestic Goddess. Says, looking forward to seeing so many pundits wipe egg off their face for their predictions on this game. Not only the predictions on this game, Sarah, but I just got to say, on this channel, I talked about it before the game, and I've really mocked the whole, we need to hold Kyle Shanahan accountable. We really need to hold, just the whole negativity. Like, we got to be negative. We got to be ultra negative, because if we're not ultra negative, we're not really doing our job with covering this team the right way. And that's what we see in this content creator space from so many people. And I just got to say, I understand that as a journalist, part of your job is to hold people accountable. I totally understand that. What I don't agree with is, I don't agree with quote, holding people accountable when they're doing a damn good job at their job. And that's where the 49ers are right now. Now, if the 49ers are losing games, or if they make stupid decisions along the way that cost them games, that cause them not to be good, whatever, yeah, then we're going to hold them accountable. But there's not, right now, this whole holding people accountable thing, it's a really cool shtick. And we'll just leave it at that. I'm not talking about any one person. There's a whole group of them that are doing that. And yeah, we'll see. They might get mad at me and yell at me and whatever. I don't really give a shit. Glass City comes in with a super chat. Moody is back. Yeah, so let's get into that. Let's get into Moody. Let's turn this back into the positivity. Let's get back to the game, the positivity of Moody. 3 for 3 today. Right? A lot of question marks around his play during this preseason. All the missed field goals, not looking good. And one of the things that if you paid attention to the folks at practice, what we kept saying was, he's been really good on the practice field in Santa Clara. We just haven't seen this transition yet over into the games. Well, guess what? It transitioned into the game today at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, a place that's notoriously tough to kick in. He went 3 for 3. Right down the pipe, as well as 3 for 3 on extra points. So overall, he was 6 of 6 today. 12 of the 49ers' 30 points coming by the way of the right foot of Jake Moody. His long today was from 41 yards out. A really solid performance for Jake Moody. So got to shout that out. Thank you, Glass City, for that. That's a positive one right there for dang sure. He also says, what's your opinion on McKivitz? He seemed to struggle a bit, like you said. Yeah, I felt like Holton McKivitz today played exactly what I expected he was going to play. I told you guys before the game, my feeling was that he was going to play well. He was going to play better than expected. but he was going to get beat. There were going to be times he was going to get beat. Just going to happen. You're playing against TJ Watt, one of the best pass rushers in the league, and you're going to lose at times. And that's exactly what happened. He lost a couple of times. I thought, he played really well early on. I think some of that, though, again, was Brock Purdy just getting the ball out of his hands quickly. But overall, I felt like he played okay. As I saw someone point out during the game, it's one thing to recognize the struggles that McKivitz was having today, but it's also important to recognize who he's going against. How many teams in the NFL, how many times is he going to go up against the guy the caliber of TJ Watt, not JJ Watt, TJ Watt, right? How many times is he going to go up against that kind of guy? There's not very many TJ Watts in the NFL. And so I think he's going to be a guy who's going to still struggle at times. He's not going to be perfect. He's probably not exactly at the same level as Mike McGlinchey, but he's pretty close. He's pretty close. You're not going to see him have the misses where he's flying through the air and those kind of things, but you're going to see guys run around him at times. He gave up his edge a couple of times today, both on deeper drops by the quarterback. And I really think that he needs to step up, and there's going to be times where it's going to be tough. And if you look at it today too, the other part with these sacks is look at the situations that these sacks came in. 3rd and 6. So it's a 3rd and long. That's when the defense knows what's coming. 3rd and 6. It's not very often that you're going to line up in that position and you're going to come out and hold on to the ball. Most of the time on 3rd and 6, you're going to try to throw it. So 3rd and 6, and you get a sack. The other one, the sack fumble, that was a 2nd and 7 play. So again, 2nd and long, it's kind of a little bit more of a in-between type of thing, but really good job by Watt getting around the edge there, and they get the pressure, gets the sack as Purdy starts to scramble, and he fumbles it, but he holds on to it. The next play, really good. It was 3rd and 7 now, and really good pressure off the edge by Watt again. So you kind of look through the situation. These 3rd and longs, Cole McKivitt's going to struggle in that situation at times. It's just going to happen. You don't want it to happen, but it's going to happen. And I felt like when it comes to Colton McKivitz today, I would say he's probably a C. Probably an average type of a performance. Had some good, had some bad. Overall, steady. So I would give him an average grade for today for Colton McKivitz. But I'm probably a little bit easier grader than others. Moses Martinez. Hey, Moses, good to have you. Your name's popped up over here every once in a while. It's good to have you on. He says, "What's up, Jack? Beautiful win. Some stuff to clean up, but love the win." Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the other thing too. The Flyers with a big win today, 30-7. It wasn't perfect. There definitely was some stuff to clean up in terms of the penalties. You look at some of those situations that they put themselves in with some holds and things like that. There was definitely some things to work on. So it wasn't perfect. Some things to clean up, like you say, Moses. That's the perfect way to put it. But yeah, it was a really good win today, I think, for the 49ers. Sasha Brady, the 49er infighting is the only thing that gets me down. Spend more time fighting each other than the opposition. We Arsenal fans are usually like that. No, I totally understand where you're coming from, Sasha. It is frustrating. That's why it's kind of funny to watch 49ers fans and the stuff that has been said about certain players on this team this year. And I can understand having some questions, but man, some of the stuff that went on this offseason has gone completely overboard. But you're right. A lot more positivity, especially when you consider that this is a team that in the last 4 years has been to a Super Bowl and back-to-back NFC Championship games. If you're a 49ers fan, you have seen your team play a lot of games, a lot more games than other teams, because there aren't any other teams that have gone to back-to-back NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl, other than maybe the Kansas City Chiefs. So you're pretty lucky if you're a 49er fan right now with the way that this team is playing. I said this a little while ago, said it a few times, but a few weeks ago, I think I was doing a show with somebody, and I said that I really feel like right now the 49ers are kind of in that same area as they were in the early 80s, mid 80s, when they were just a team that was going to want the best team in the league, the most talented team in the league, good coach, knows what he's doing offensively, good staff, and they are just one of the best teams. And you can find some things to talk about that aren't on the positive side with that. And you can find some, there's obviously it's not perfect, like we talk about all the time. There's positives and negatives. But right now, man, this for the fans who weren't around during the Super Bowl years. I'll just tell you, this is about as close to that as possible. If they can win one, maybe a couple now down the road here, that will be huge. And I think you'll see what it was like. Because I really do. I feel like Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, the job that they've done in San Francisco is about as close to what we saw from Bill Walsh during that early 80s run when they rebuilt the team to now, because that's what they've had to do. They've had to come in and rebuild the team. So again, really quick, Brock Purdy, a really nice day today. Overall, he finishes up though 19 of 29, 220 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 3 sacks, all those coming by TJ Watt with those sacks. All those sacks also given up by Colton McKivitz. So, but 19 to 29. And then you go through and, my second question today, and we just got done talking about it. And it was with regards to Colton McKivitz, keeping TJ Watt off the quarterback. And we just talked about this one quite a bit. I think it was an okay performance, up and down, more up than down by more up than down for Colton McKivitz today. He's going to struggle in some of those situations. So pretty good. We got Jean Evander says the racist fans were right. Brock is him. Okay. Glass City Niner coming back in with another super chat says Pittsburgh only ran the ball 10 times, but I thought we were solid against the run. I agree with you. I do. The 49ers were solid against the run. The problem today for the Steelers was they couldn't get anything going. So yeah, they didn't run the ball very much because by the time they finally started picking up first downs, the score is already 20-0. The first 5 possessions of the game, which that period, where the 49ers, that first 5 possessions where you kind of are trying to stay balanced and all those kind of things. They were trying to stay balanced, but they weren't running the ball. They couldn't pick anything up. They were being shut down at the line of scrimmage. So the second half, now down 20-7, you score right there. That you throw the ball all the way down the field to get into, to score that touchdown right before the half, and then you come out and 2 plays in, all that momentum you just fought to get is all gone because the Flyers go right down the field on 2 plays and it's 27-7. So, the second half of this game was a drawn out process. The game was over at halftime. Actually, it was over 2 plays into the second half, and the Flyers retook the 20-point lead. But I agree with you. I do think that the 49ers looked solid against the run. They were definitely stepping up. There was nowhere for those guys to go. And a very positive game overall for the San Francisco 49ers on that defensive side. Just solid. And like I said, too, you looked at it and 1 yard of total offense. It was just a butt whooping by the 49ers defense today, all around. It was a really good one. Right. Harold says that, Jack, 49ers had single coverage on TJ Watt for the most part. Yes, you're right. They did not really put a lot of help over there to help out Colton McKivitz. They left him on his own. They left him on an island. There was a couple times early on where I saw him get some help from George Kittle or what have you. But for the most part, you're right, Harold. TJ Watt one-on-one with Colton McKivitz. The 49ers threw the ball today. He dropped back more than 29 times. There was 29 throws. He got sacked 3 times, so that's a couple. He scrambled a few times. So, you look at, it was about 30, probably about 30, I'm going to guess about 36 dropbacks today for Brock Purdy today. They got 3 sacks, all of those by TJ Watt, but that's a pretty good day, I think, overall. Just kind of looking through the numbers really quick in terms of the hits. So you had the 3 sacks. He got hit 4 other times today. And of those 7 hits, 5 of them from TJ Watt. So the 3 sacks, he got hit 2 other times. So Colton McKivitz played okay. He's got a long ways to go. But again, TJ Watt isn't on every team. So the Flyers, I think, are going to be fine when it comes to that whole situation right there. Now, let's also, take a look really quick. The other question that I had going into this game today was around the 49ers offensive line. The question I had there was, can the 49ers offensive line generate enough push in the run game? I hadn't really seen that from them. It seemed like they were struggling with that during the training camp and the preseason. They get into this game and they dominated up front. They did a good job for the most part in pass protection, like we talked about already. But then in the run game, it was just there was big run after big run. Just so many nice runs with Christian McCaffrey today. You know, he had the 65-yarder. That's the big one. But on top of that 65-yarder, you've got, on that first touchdown drive, you have a 9-yard run on a toss out to the left side. Then you run that little trap counter right up the gut for 17. So it's just plays like that. You just saw chunk plays for Christian McCaffrey. I even, an 11-yarder on the 2 possessions later, you get an 11-yarder right up the middle for McCaffrey. Just that was kind of a consistent theme of this game was chunk runs out of McCaffrey. Even a 5-yard run by Deebo Samuel, another 7-yard run for McCaffrey. Just stuff like that. It was constant throughout the game. You have the big 65-yarder. You just had these big runs up the middle. Good stuff out of Christian McCaffrey, out of the 49ers offensive line, opening up holes for them. Really helping them out to move the ball down the field today. Good overall performance. Again, the numbers, when you look at the numbers today for the 49ers running backs, 22 carries for 152 yards for Christian McCaffrey. Elijah Mitchell, 5 carries, just 2 yards, not much there. Deebo Samuel, 2 carries, 8 yards. He actually had the first run of the season and a run off the right side for a gain of 3 on that first possession. Beyond that, I think one of the other things today that we saw with Brock Purdy was his ability to escape pressure. He had in the second half there, pressure, gets moves, and takes off up the field, and it's an 18-yard run. I mean, stuff like that. He's not a guy that wants to win with his legs. He wants to win with his arm. And you saw him move around. There was that one scramble. It was I think it might have been the fourth quarter by this point. It was the fourth quarter. But it was a 3rd and 12, pressure, moves, makes the guy miss, and it's an 18-yard gain. Just, really good stuff out of Purdy with his mobility there as well. So offensively, solid. You get over the defensive side of the ball, it was pretty solid as well. I do want to hit the super chat from Harold, who says, always great reporting, Jack. Please hit those likes and subscribe. Let's go Niners. Harold, I really appreciate it. I know, Harold, you've been around this channel for a long time, so I appreciate it. I appreciate your super chat, and I thank you for those kind words. And everybody, listen to Harold. Hit the like, subscribe if you haven't done that already, and then when you subscribe, turn on your notifications, all those fun types of things. So, Harold, appreciate you so much. Thank you. Sasha says, Jack, did you see any development in Brock's game? He mentioned a need to step up in the pocket and stay on script more. Any noticeable differences in how Wilks calls the game versus previous defensive coordinators? So let's start first off with Brock Purdy. In terms of the development, there has been he has done a better job this year in the offseason in training camp with stepping up into the pocket. I had a whole article that I wrote one day after training camp about how that on that particular day, he really did a good job of stepping up into the pocket. I saw that a couple of times a day where he stepped up and made throws moving forward. Really nice to see that from him. Yeah, there was times that he bailed out to the left like what we saw last year, but it's kind of hard to bail to the right when the pressure's coming from the right. So, I was fine with it. I liked – so in like your question about development, yes, I've seen the stepping up in the pocket from Brock Purdy. I think we saw that today a little bit. Staying on script, I think that's a tough one to answer today, right now, because I don't have the film to look at. We'll get a better idea of it. I think he did a pretty good job for the most part of staying on script. I would say I'm not 100% sold on that though, because of the fact that there was a couple times as that game went along, like I said, he seemed to hold on to the ball more, and you started to see the pressure. I'm wondering if that was him maybe sliding off script, looking for the big play instead of taking what was right in front of him. So that's something to keep an eye on when I go back and look at the film. That's a really good question there. And then in terms of the noticeable differences in how Wilks calls the defense versus the previous defensive coordinators, I didn't really notice anything different today out of that. It didn't seem like they were blitzing more often. It felt like most of the pressures were coming with their front four. We saw them line up on that one run play where they blew up. Fred Warner blows up Najee Harris on a run to the left side, defense's right side. This was I think the second possession of the game, they line up with 5 down linemen on the field. But that's not anything new. They did that last year with D'Amico Ryans. I think they might have even done that with Robert Saleh. So, I right now I can't say that there was any huge differences that were notable. It felt like it was just a lot of what we've seen in the past. And for San Francisco, when you have a game like today where you're able to dominate the front with 4 rushers, with as good as they are on the back end, you don't need to blitz and put guys out of position. They blitzed Warner a couple of times. They blitzed guys at times, but man, they were really solid. And right now I don't know if I can say that there's like a thing, where there's a stamp from Steve Wilkes in terms of being different. I think he's just come in and he's done a good job of taking that off the defense, really coaching up the secondary. That secondary play was good last year on the back end with the safeties. The corners, I think Diamondo Lenore is an overlooked player. Travaris Ward, really nice in terms of the, he was the addition that they made in free agency. But I think overall, it's just a really nice team, well put together. So good stuff there. Sarah, the domestic goddess, now a member of the Toolbox. Sarah, thanks for joining the channel. Says, Jack, you're my favorite 49ers reporter coverage. So glad I found your channel, enjoying the Toolbox. So glad to be here for the season ahead. So proud of Brock and all the guys. Man, what a game. Yeah, and that's the thing is, thank you very much, Sarah, for joining the channel, first off. And then also, I agree, the start of this season, to when you compare today to where you were a year ago at this time, because remember that first game against Chicago, that was the morning game opening the season. Right now, it was just like, what just happened, right? What just happened? That was just such a downer of a start, especially for a team that had so much talent. And they're playing against a team that shouldn't have been in the game, and then they shot themselves in the foot left and right. You turn that around to this year, and just what a difference in performance. Yeah, it's not raining, so it's not apples to apples, but this team just picked up right where they left off, right? Before other than what happened in the NFC Championship game, Brock Purdy has now started 6 regular season games for the San Francisco 49ers as their starting quarterback. In those 6 games, they have scored 30 points or more 5 times. That's wild. 5 times in 6 starts, you scored over 30 points. Yes, I know people are going to point to the defense. They're going to point to all those things, and you're right. The defense plays a role in that. Anytime a team scores over 30 points in the NFL, it's a team deal. It's not just one guy or one side of the ball. It's both sides. But that's a big number. And again, that's why he has the C on his chest. That's why his teammates believe in him enough to make him a captain. So thank you very much. And I think there's a lot of positivity, and I'm not going to go negative just to go negative. I'm not going to go negative for clicks. I'm not going to go negative for views. When I think there's a problem, you'll hear it from me. Even today, I felt like there was a couple of things we've already talked about that weren't, it's not like everything was perfect in this game. Colton McKivitz, it's a problem, but I'm not going to berate the fact or belabor that fact, because they were still able to figure a way out to win. And he is going to struggle at times throughout the season. But overall, this is a really, really good team. Piff Daddy also becoming a new member of the channel, so I want to shout him out as well. Luke Walsh says, less fire zone blitzes than I expected. Yeah, I didn't see, like I said, when it comes to that, I just did not see a whole lot of change up. But maybe it's just because I don't know what I'm seeing on the defensive side. Maybe there was a lot of mix and match and different things on the back end. But I do think that for the most part, it looked like the defense that we've always seen. So Piff Daddy 420, thanks for joining the Toolbox. I appreciate you. Let's see what else. He says, Harold saying that Jack's always fair, honest. Some fans don't like that. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like it. And take it for what it's worth. That's why I always say it at the end. If you don't have to like what I have to say, you don't have to like me, whatever. But I appreciate everybody who makes the time to come in and check the channel. Really quick, a couple other things. Let's get to the defensive side. We talked a little bit about it. We talked about how good they were against that running game. Run defense stepping up in a big way today. Only 10 carries on the day for the Steelers. We talked about that. They had 41 yards on those 10 carries, but of those 41 yards, most of that came on one run from Najee Harris. He had 24 yards on that one run late in the first half. So when you look at it, 24 yards, you take that away from the 41, and that's what, 17? So 17 yards on the other 9 carries today for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And like I said, in that one run from Najee Harris, the big 24-yarder, that was a little draw play 49ers playing back up 20-0, just trying to get out of the half. You'll give that guy a 24-yard run in that situation. This run defense was really solid. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do moving forward, especially in this game today, because I really thought that Pittsburgh was going to have to run the ball to win. I talked about that quite a bit in the run up to this game, and they just could not get that run game going. And then he put the game on the right arm of Kenny Pickett, and it all plays to the 49ers' favor at that point. So good stuff there. And then also want to shout out, we got to get over to the defense really quick. Piff Daddy says he never paid for a channel before. Thanks, Jack. Hey, man, that's even better. Now you really made my day. Piff Daddy, I like it. Let's see. All right, where are we? One more on we got to look at the defensive line, and that was the can the 49ers pass rush get to Kenny Pickett? That was really the question. Pickett had been so good. Pickett coming into the game with a passer rating of just 62.4 when he was pressured, and 72.4 when blitzed. A big difference compared to what we've seen out of Brock Purdy with the 49ers. And you look at this game today, and Pickett played right into the 49ers' hands. He was 31 of 46, 232 yards, had a touchdown. He had a pick, finishes with a pass rating of 68.4. But the pressure was there all day. You had 5 sacks by the 49ers defense, 3 by Drake Jackson. Drake Jackson had a total of 3 sacks all of last season. Today, he matches that. One game matches his career high for the season at 3. He had 2 as well. So again, and I've been a guy who haven't been the biggest Drake Jackson guy, but I've always felt like the 49ers liked what they had there. And again, what I kept saying all off season about Jackson is he's going to be okay. Going to be okay. His sacks are going to come because of pressure by other people. He's going to be the cleanup guy. Everybody else is going to cause the chaos, and he's going to be the guy that comes in to clean it up. So he's like those guys that come in to clean up the crime scenes, right? That's Drake Jackson. The other guys are doing all the chaos, and he just comes in with his little sweeper and cleans it all up, make sure it's all nice and clean so nobody knows what happened. That's Drake Jackson, and he's able to make the plays. I like it. He had one of those sacks was a nice one where he loops around, comes right up the middle for the sack. So that was a nice one by Jackson as well. And that's not a knock on him. I like what you can get out of Drake Jackson. I think the biggest thing with him, and like somebody pointed out earlier, I had been a little negative or had my questions on Jackson. Yes. Drake Jackson as a pass rusher by himself without Nick Bosa on the other side, question mark. If it's Drake Jackson and Clelin Ferrell, that's a question mark. But with Nick Bosa on the other side with Armstead and Hargrave, Drake Jackson's going to get his numbers. He's not going to win a lot on his own, but he's going to get his numbers, and he saw that today. Fish and Chips, member of the Toolbox, wants to know how Darnold did. We got to say, we would not be doing a service to the 49er fans if we did not talk about Sam Darnold and how nice those kneel downs were at the end of the game. His ability to get the snap, hit his knee quick, that was the kind of stuff that wins rings for a team that's trying to get to the Super Bowl. So Sam Darnold, big time today. Fish and Chips. Randy Milliken, another member of the Toolbox, says, been a Niner fan for 30 plus years. Great to see them come out and win today. Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Get a win, start the season 1-0 on the road, a game that I think everybody thought was going to be a lot tougher than it ended up being. Now you go home and you get ready for next week against the Rams. No Cooper Kupp for the Rams, so we'll see how that game turns out, but that's a game that seems to play into the 49ers' favor. And then from there, things get interesting because it's a short week for the Giants the next week. So, right now, the 49ers need to go out, take care of business, get home. I think they're coming out of this pretty healthy. The one scare of the day was Trent Williams going down. I think when you look at, the 49ers offensive line, Trent Williams is the one piece you definitely can't lose. If you lose one of the interior guys, I think you're okay with John Feliciano. But Trent Williams, yeah, they need Trent Williams to stay healthy. Jalen Moore stepped in for a couple plays there, but then Williams came back out. So I think that was the biggest scare of the day for 49ers fans, but he came out. That ended up being out okay as well. Sasha wants to know why were we much better in stopping the run today? Bosa's presence, the ones playing, the effectiveness of coverage, Greenlaw and Warner in the beast mode. I think you're where you want to. When you look at your string of questions right here, I think they were better stopping the run today. Primarily, what you say right there in the middle where it says the ones playing, because the ones hadn't played. You had not seen Javon Hargrave and Eric Armstead and Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw and that whole interior of the 49ers defense, really, right? So I think that's the biggest thing, is that you just had the ones playing. Greenlaw and Warner are two of the best in the business as anyway. The effectiveness and coverage, no, I don't really put the ability to stop the run. I don't think that has anything to do with the coverage ability. I think that has all to do with the fact that defensive front held up, and that's the biggest thing. Eric Armstead in the middle. Eric Armstead, again, I felt like he played really good. His numbers, there's no numbers to back it up because he didn't have a tackle, didn't have any of those, didn't have a stat. The only stat that he had was the quarterback hit. But Eric Armstead, I feel, was solid against the run. I felt like he was did a good job of holding his spot, which allows, by holding your spot and allowing Fred Warner to get around for 8 tackles, allow Dre Greenlaw to get there for 6 tackles, those types of things. I think that Eric Armstead had a really nice day today. Same thing with Javon Hargrave, a guy who they're having some questions about Hargrave as a run defender because of the type of player he is in terms of getting up the field as much as he does. But I felt like those two are really solid in the middle. And when you get solid play at the line of scrimmage, when you are reestablishing the line of scrimmage on the defense, it makes it a lot easier to stop the run, because now, especially when you got a guy like Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, it makes it a lot easier. And the other thing with this 49ers defense, you saw it a couple of times today, you can't run to the edge on this team. If you're going to run on the 49ers, you've got to do it between the tackles. So if you try to run to the edges, if you try to run outside, the 49ers are too fast. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, the secondary, they're too fast to get there. If you're going to run on the 49ers, you need to be able to run downhill on them. Well, when the 49ers defensive line holds serve like they did today and creates piles and makes it so that you're not pushing them down the field into those linebackers will scrape, and they're going to attack the line of scrimmage and make those tackles for short gains and then force your quarterback to make plays. That's what they did today. Kenny Pickett can't do it. We'll see. Next week's going to be a little bit of a different deal with Matthew Stafford. We'll see how the Rams fare. But I think it's more of the ones playing. So that's a good question, Sasha. You've had a couple of good questions. You should become a member of the Toolbox because you're a smart guy. I like your questions. Really quick, yeah, Lucas says that was a pucker moment when Williams went down, thought it was a torn pec. Well, he was grabbing a little under. I thought I haven't heard yet what the issue was, but I wonder if he got hit in the ribs. Randy Milliken, member of the Toolbox, defense shut them down today. 100%, absolutely was the case. A really nice performance there as well. No, you don't need to say sorry. You keep asking questions. Just become a member of the Toolbox. It's like $2.99, and then you can ask all the questions you want. Because I like the Toolbox members, they get first dibs. Everybody else, you guys are good. If you ask a good question, I'm going to pull it up. Harold, not a Toolbox member, but I've known Harold for a while. He's been around here. Harold surprises me. He should be a Toolbox member. He says, how was Lenore's performance? B+. He needs to watch out for the penalties. Diablo Lenore, I think, is a guy who's wildly underrated amongst the 49ers defensive backs. I think he's a really nice player. I would give him, I don't know if I'd give him a B+. I'd give him a B. It was a solid performance. He does a good job in pass coverage. He's tight in coverage, does a good job against the run. The only thing is he had the one boneheaded, play on Najee Harris. I can understand being in that position, running across like that, wanting to get a hit on the guy, but you're right there along the sidelines. That's a tough one. You got to pull off on that. And that was a big 15 yards right there for the Steelers. So, but overall, I think Lenore, a very solid day overall. Let's see what else. Fish and Chips says you can't play mistake-free football. It's impossible. Just make sure the mistakes are not in a crucial moment. And I think that's it, right? That's it. Because we talk about playing mistake-free. And I think what I'll say is when it comes to you're going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to make mistakes. Every team is going to make mistakes. There's no game in which you play perfect. You're always going to make mistakes. But what you can't have is you can't have the crucial mistakes. And it might not even be a crucial moment, but you can't be the crucial mistakes. And so a crucial mistake is the turnovers. You can't turn the ball over. If you're turning the ball over, the 49ers, if you look at the 49ers over the last few years, really since 2019, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know they back me up on this. When the 49ers turn the ball over less than their opponents, they almost always win. And when they turn the ball over more than their opponents, they almost always lose. It's just one of the things about the 49ers and the way they play. If the turnover margin is tied, they still win a fair share of those games. But again, today you look at the game, there was 2 turnovers for the Steelers. The 49ers had just the one turnover today on the fumble. But beyond that, they had mistakes. They had some issues when, they had errors on the holds. They had errors on some penalties on offense, what have you. But they didn't have the crucial mistakes. They didn't have the turnovers. They didn't give Pittsburgh free, good field position, easy plays, those types of things. I think that's the biggest thing. So that's a good one, Fish and Chips. I really liked it. And I liked your comment because we always hear people talk about mistake-free. They have to play mistake-free, but it's not mistake-free. It's about not making the big mistakes, right? Not making the big ones. Big ones for the 49ers. If the 49ers don't turn the ball over, that's really what they need to do. Just don't turn the ball over. If I was going to write up, say one thing before every game that was going to dictate the 49ers are going to win or lose, that's it. That's all I'd have to write. Just one sentence. Which team turns the ball over more? They're going to win, especially when it comes to the 49ers. Luke, this is good. Starting linebackers had incredible run fits. Also, gap vacate specialist Kinlaw was not the starter, right? And then I also felt like when Javon Kinlaw was on the field, because you saw him out there a few times, he was doing a good job of staying where he was supposed to stay in terms of his gap, and you saw him get a couple of nice pass rushes in there too. So overall, pretty solid start to this one. Yes, you're right. You're right, Randy. Yes, Trent did come back out. I was just pointing out that was kind of the oh no moment. Let's see what else we got. Wishnowski was fantastic. Gotta love the punter, right? Where's my special teams guy? Shoot, I know who it is. I just can't think of his name right now. He loves special teams anyway. But yeah, Wishnowski was really good on the kickoffs. Kicked the ball into the end zone to open up the game, and we need to see that more often. You need to get more touchbacks. We need to get the 49ers kickoff team. If there's one thing that we want to yell about in this game, I would say the 49ers ability to cover kicks is still a problem. I think if there's one negative that you want to take away from this game, the 49ers special teams has got to do a better job of covering kickoffs. There you go. Just kind of looking through, and that's it. You look at the game again. 49ers start off the season 1-0. Brock Purdy, a solid performance. Brock Purdy, the real deal, 19 of 29, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns. They really didn't throw the ball a whole lot in the second half. They didn't have to. You look at his game, he had over, I think if you look at the totals, he had, what did he have? 21 attempts in the first half today. Just looking at, Brock Purdy in the first half today, 14 to 21. So it comes out after the second half. He only attempted 10 attempts in the second half. He was 5 of 10 in the second half today. So, I think on those five incompletions, there were some throwaways in there and stuff. So not very much throwing from the 49ers in the second half, but that's usually what you do when you're up 20 points in the second half of a football game. So Brock Purdy, performance overall. Christian McCaffrey, a big day, 152 yards on 22 carries, 1 touchdown. And I got to say really quick on that big touchdown run from Christian McCaffrey, I hope everybody saw the 2 guys that were downfield, making sure that he got into the end zone. Ray McLeod with those blocks, blocking his butt off down the field. That helped. That was a big piece of why McCaffrey actually got that into the end zone, was Ray McLeod down the field. Brandon Ayuk was down there as well, but Ayuk didn't have anybody to block because McLeod was doing the blocking on the guy. But Ayuk would have been there. He was there to help clean up if he needed to. Just really good stuff down the field. And Brandon Ayuk, a big day, eight catches, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ayuk targeted 8 times. So every time the ball went his way, it was caught. And he went for 129 yards. The last piece on Brock Purdy today that I'll say is, last year he was one of the things that was one of the big things about Brock Purdy last year was his performance on throws into that intermediate area of the field. So, you talk about the intermediate area, you're talking about that 10 to 19 yards past the line of scrimmage. That's that's a position, an area of the field where last year Brock Purdy was just money, and he completed over 80% of his passes in that area of the field. Today, you saw that again, just targeting that middle, that intermediate stuff. It's so much talk about Brock Purdy being a dinker and dunker, whatever. The NFL is all about what can you do in that intermediate range. That's really kind of a downfield. You get the ball to those guys in that area, let your receivers run and that kind of stuff. And he was money in that area again today. So good stuff there. Nick Bosa, I don't know how many snaps he was going to play at one point. I know they had said he was going to play about 30 to 40. And at one point in the first half, he played all but 2 snaps. Somebody made a comment about that, and I said, yeah, but they've only run like 20 plays. So if he's only missed 2 snaps, he's right about on track to be able to play 30 to 40 snaps. The Steelers today running 61 total plays overall. A lot of those come in later, and I know that Bosa wasn't in there. But big day for Jake Jackson as well. Big day for a couple of guys on the 49ers in the back end. Traveris Ward with that interception, Talanoa Hufanga with an interception. So just a really solid way for the 49ers to start the season. A lot of positive vibes. Now we get to see them next Sunday. They'll kick off the NFC slate of their schedule, taking on NFC West rival, the Los Angeles Rams, next Sunday. But today, the 49ers win, open the season 30-7. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Take everything that I say for what it's worth. I appreciate you all for making the time to watch. If you can do me a favor, hit that like button. And then before you leave, also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're a subscriber. Maybe even become a member like some of the folks did, like Piff Daddy 420 did today. And then also make sure you turn your notifications on so you don't miss any of the updates right here on Inside the Farms with Jack Hammer. Until next time, I will be back with more updates throughout the week. I'm always around. My next thing, I'm sure, there'll be something tomorrow. Keep an eye out. I might even have a film breakdown if the film gets out here quick enough. So thanks a lot. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching. 49ers win.